All right, it looks like we're live. Let me know by typing one if you can hear me and see me clearly. Rudy is here today for the live stream. Let's hope he doesn't. Yeah, I think he's fast asleep now. He's had a good day. Great to see you guys. We've got Pablo Pina, Marie de Remus from Charleston, South Carolina. We've got Urban Sombrero. Rumpelstiltskin is here. He's gotten up early. He's in Japan. We've got Olivier Leroy from Paris. Manic Miner. Grow Mechanic. Uncle Robbie says Rudy the Silver Ranger. Jillian B. Hi, Jillian B. Yeah, Rudy had a good weekend. We took him to the park yesterday and we let him off the lead and he was very good. He ran he had a good time with the other dogs, but he came back. He followed us, so he'll be able to be off the lead in the park. Alejandro from Chicago, Illinois. Iron Tom. Andrew Bevan from South Wales. Just to let people know, if you're listening to this recorded, maybe skip about 10 minutes. That's when we're going to start looking at the topics. Right now, I'm just like greeting everyone that's here. That's what we usually do. We can come on around 10 minutes before. Wild Blue from Tennessee, LCO1 from Belgium. Riqua, Salut, Endurorama, Pat, hi Pat, Barbara Ekdahl, greetings from Sweden. Hi Barbara. Humudo, Barbara, I know that in Swedish. Humudo, how are you? Dilwyn Roberts, North Wales, Ant H. And yeah, the topic for the live stream, I mean, we're going to cover different subjects, of course, but the topic is record central bank gold buying expected to continue in 2023. And that's not surprising at all, of course. And there's a few other things we're going to go over. John Bethy from South Carolina. Jill Tillapaw from the Republic of Texas. That's right. Stacy Yoder, thank you for your economic analysis. She's from California. You're welcome. Tommy, good evening. Mario from Leicestershire, UK. RJ McShane lost a Victoria shilling. Yeah, that is annoying. They're nice coins. I have some. I went to on Friday. I went to see Peter Morris in Bromley, the local coin and metal dealer. So that I bought a few coins. Bought some US half dollars, 64 half dollars, some quarters and dimes. But I also bought this one here. It's a 1819 crown, which I thought was really nice. There you go, with King George III, Mad George. And I think 1819 was his 59th year. It says here on the edge of the coin, it says that it's his 59th year as king. So I thought that was nice. That's a bit more worth more than the silver content, but sometimes I like buying these old coins. I thought it was quite nice. And today, of course, is St. George's Day here in England. It's the national day for England, St. George's. There he is slaying the dragon. That design is by Benedetto Pistrucci, who was an Italian. He designed all the sovereigns as well. The design of St. George slaying the dragon is by an Italian artist. Andrew Watson from Basingstoke. Hi, Andrew. Scoobyism, Chris Conman. Hi, Chris. Yeah, Rudy's doing okay. He's fast asleep. It's almost his bedtime. Carlos Garcia, Gold and Silver Tribe members. He says hi. Same day, different Shih Tzu. Yeah, I still miss, and sometimes I call Rudy Billy, which is a bit. I feel bad about it. Sorry, Rudy. Yeah, Scoobyism. I love the history as well behind coins. Very interesting. A crown used to be actually, yeah, a quarter of a pound. Actually, in the old, a crown is actually 60 pence. The old 60 pence before 1971, a crown is 60 pence. There were 240 pence to the pound. So you needed 4 of these to get 1 sovereign. And I think the gold to silver ratio was around 14 or 15 for the UK. Ruby's 200 from Mississippi. Yeah, sales tax has been eliminated in Mississippi. I think in Arkansas as well. We're going to look at Arkansas. They've just enacted, they've signed into law that it's going to become legal tender. So Rudy just moved. If you can see him better now. Thanks, Rudy. LG from Orlando. Richard Pickering, does Peter at the coin shop have a brother called Derek? I don't know. I don't know. You'd have to ask him. Ricky Talk from Manchester in England. Living the dream is falling asleep. All right. Matt Bittner, did you see Gonzalo Lira new video endorsing Biden for the 2024 presidential race? No, I didn't see that. That's I didn't. Requa, what's your favorite coin? Mine is either St. Gaudens Double Eagle or French 20 franc rooster. I don't know. I like most coins. I mean, I like the florins, the UK florins. They're like 2 shillings. They're really nice. The pre-1920, of course, which was sterling silver. Rentenmark, yeah, they were able to stop the hyperinflation, but yeah, with the Rentenmark, I'm not sure what the people in charge are going to do. Don't forget that back then it was just Germany and some of the European, Central European countries whose currencies collapsed. I'm not too sure what, yeah, commodity, whenever currencies collapse, fiat currencies collapse, you always have to go back to real money, i.e. gold and silver. So there you go. But the Rentenmark used some of the assets of the country, but we already have, like here in the UK, the currency is backed by a lot of real estate, mortgage debt, I would say, and government debt. So we've got about 3 minutes. Let's start moving. Let's see how many of you are here already. Okay, about 400. So record central bank gold buying expected to continue in 2023. So let's get on to this. And it doesn't surprise me, of course. So we'll go through this here. This article, it's in the FT. It came out earlier today, actually. I mean, over the weekend, central banks load up on gold in response to rising geopolitical tensions. I mean, I've been telling you guys about this, of course, many other people for the last few years, especially since February last year. when the heavy sanctions were imposed on Russia. So it says reserve managers purchases rose 152% last year. That's old news, of course. But what's interesting is that there's been an annual poll of 83 central banks, which manage a combined 7 trillion in foreign exchange assets. And they found that more than 2/3 of respondents thought their peers would increase their gold holdings in 2023. And says bullion tends to become more attractive in times of instability, and demand has soared over the past year. The amount of gold bought by central banks rose by 152% in 2022, according to the World Gold Council. So this survey was conducted by HSBC, really, which is one of the bullion banks. So could they have smashed gold and silver prices last week because they knew this was coming out? Who knows? But it's not the reason why we need to keep stacking, in my opinion. It's just that they're not going to be able to stop the inflation. They have to keep inflating. The system of fiat currency is an inflate or die kind of system. And this is quite interesting here. This is people who are involved with bullion banks, like John Reed. He used to work for UBS as a bullion dealer. He says countries have recognized that the gold that Russia holds, because it's outside of anybody else's control, is useful in situations where you might not be able to access any other reserves. So this is what I think is really important as well, especially for countries that are not really closely allied to the UK and the US. This is important, I think. While Russia's gold was stored at home, many central banks keep their reserves abroad, including at the Bank of England and the New York Fed, reflecting London and New York status as the biggest gold dealing markets. I'm not sure how long that's going to last. We saw a few years ago countries like Germany and France repatriating their gold. I would be concerned, if I wasn't too closely aligned to London and New York geopolitically, I would be taking my gold out if possible. Venezuela, we know, tried to get their gold, and it's still stuck here at the Bank of England. So that was what I wanted to talk about. So we'll move on. I'll take some of your questions now, if you have any. Mark with a K says, today the Dutch MI6 labeled a silver stacker as an anti-institutional extremist in a major Dutch newspaper. Mark Thomas says, Argentina, 104% inflation. Not surprised. I think we're going the same way as Argentina, not just in the UK, but everywhere else in the West. Belly Dance Rabbit says, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the real deal. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Belly Dance Arabia. I don't try to get involved in politics, but the fact that he wants to close down all American military bases abroad, I think that's a good thing. But we'll have to see what happens to him. And I had been following him even before what happened in 2020 with that disease. I used to follow him because he's done a lot of research, a lot of work on children's problems from from these things, from these jabs. So yeah, I think he's a good guy. LG, it's silly, but the BIS classified gold as a tier 1 asset for banks for several years. Actually, tier 1 is to do with the bank equity. So they classify, what they do is they allow gold to be counted as an asset for tier 1 equity capital. That's what people get wrong. Gold is not a tier 1 equity capital, but it can be used as a 100% asset for equity capital of a bank. Not surprising, it's the safest really asset that a bank can have, in my opinion. Daniel says you don't need to keep stacking endlessly, just have 10% in the portfolio. Gold doesn't give off a yield. Well, Daniel, I think that's up to each individual. Right now, we're not getting a yield, a real yield in the UK. Interest rates are like 4%. If you can get them, I just put some money into national savings. And why didn't I put it in gold? Well, it's money to pay taxes, unfortunately, but they're giving me 2.15%. But the currency is getting debased by over 10%. So that's actually a negative real yield. So I'm not too sure about the 10%. I wouldn't feel very safe only having 10% in gold and silver right now. But that's up to the individual. Carlos Garcia, did you hear about Mexico passed on Friday auditing mining companies, no permits, pollution tax evasion, etc. Existing ones with 100-year permits? No, I haven't heard about that. I have to look into it. Yeah, I saw that Chile supposedly is nationalizing all lithium properties, lithium mines. So yeah, there's always going to be some countries. That's why diversifying geographically is important when you're investing in the mining sector. Mr. B, thank you for being a moderator. He says, smack the like buttons, share far and wide, follow and subscribe. Yeah, thank you. There was over here says there's a lot of gold from all over the world, central banks, nations in the vaults and the World Trade Center. ROPKH, what do you think about Brent Johnson's dollar milkshake theory? I don't really give it too much thought, really. I don't let it distract me, because the dollar is just another fiat currency that's going to become worthless. So what's the point? It's like comparing, the dollar, the milkshake theory is, yeah, I think it's a distraction, and I would focus on stacking no matter where you are. If you look at the dollar index, it was created in 1973 and it was at 100, and we're now around 100. So it's a bit of a distraction in the long term, the dollar index, and so is the dollar milkshake theory. So I don't want to hold dollars, nor euros, nor pounds as much. I try to get rid of them as much as possible. Jake's Custom Parts. How do you see the central banks buying gold in the next few years? How do I see? Well, I think they're going to continue. They're going to continue to de-dollarize because they don't want to, they want to be, they don't want to be beholden to the U.S. because the U.S. is kind of, they've abused their privilege of having the major reserve currency. So there's a story that I wanted to talk about. Oh, it's this one here, and I just saw it on Zero Hedge, and it's to do with that, what you just asked, because, if you're going to de-dollarize, you're not, let's say Brazil will not want to have too many fiat currencies in reserves. There, people who are going to have countries are going to have trade surpluses. They're going to move more and more into gold. I think, because if you think about, don't know what this is here, advert. If you think what the way the world was, when the dollar was as good as gold, when you held dollars, you're holding gold. So now if the dollar is not going to be, the fiat dollar is not going to be something that you want to hold, you're going to hold the original real deal, which is gold. And even people like this guy here, his name is Stephen Jan, and he used to be an analyst for Morgan Stanley. He's saying that the dollar is getting de-dollarized even quicker than people think. He says that real reserves are not like 58% in dollars, but more like 47%. And so, yeah, I think countries are going to continue to buy gold, especially countries that are not in the G7. So that's how I see it. Some more questions here. And Durarama, Maria, what do you think the realistic gold and silver ratio should be? Well, historically, it's around 15, 16 to 1. So that's what I think it should be. But it's been manipulated for so long that if things really turn around in favor of silver, we could see it even go through that level. Some people think it could go to 1 to 1. I would be happy with 30 to 1. That's what we saw back in 2011. So, but right now I think we're right around 80, which is an important level. Mr. Virtue, welcome everyone. This is a process, not an event. Of course, the de-dollarization, I think that's what you mean, is a process. That's right. And the thing is that it could accelerate, and it could overnight really get worse. And that's why you can't be naked in terms of having real money. Silver Beast, Mario, would you look good in that shirt? What shirt is that? Oh, that thing. Yeah, I don't know why that popped up. It's not my taste, that's for sure. Robbie B says you should have double your body weight in metals. I think there was an Egyptian king back in the 1900s. I think his name was King Farouk, and he had to get, like, from the taxpayer, I guess, from the Egyptian people, his weight in gold every year. So he is a really big guy. The king of Egypt, he used to get his weight in gold every year. I think he was the same guy who bought the 1933 double eagle, which is a very rare coin, of course. Jean-Robert Lombard from France. Hi, Jean-Robert, nice to see you here. Robin Hunter says tax rebellion. Oh yeah, talking about France and seeing that Jean-Robert is here. Maybe he could enlighten us, but it seems to me that the French people are waking up to the fact that the economies of the West have become so financialized. We're seeing some of the protests, of course, because of the pension age change, but they're going toward, they're protesting at like BlackRock, at the French stock exchange, Euronext. I think that's an encouraging fact that the French people are maybe waking up to that. Hopefully, they'll demand sound money. Who knows? Hi, Lord Humongous. Nice to see you here. There's some other things I want to show. Yeah, we wanted to cover. I want to cover this, the Arkansas story. And so it seems to be not just nation states that are moving towards the precious metals space. It looks like Arkansas makes gold silver legal tender. 23 other states involved in similar legislation to establish US dollar alternatives. So it's not just like the BRICS nations, but even states within the United States. And I would guess a lot of these states are red states, but that doesn't really matter. So here we go. A bill signed into law on April 11th has made gold and silver legal tender in the U.S. state of Arkansas. And I think Arkansas is one of the poorest, if not the poorest state in the union. So maybe that's a good thing, allowing citizens to use gold and silver coins to pay debts. The bill also clarifies that gold and silver specie coins will not be considered property for tax purposes, and transactions made with these precious metals will not result in tax duty. That's another good thing as well. I think someone mentioned they're from another state that's taken out the taxes as well. So let's have a look which other states are also going along. Wyoming, Oklahoma, and Utah, as we see here. So more states moving to approve US dollar alternatives. Unfortunately, we have none of that here in the UK, even though there's no tax on sovereigns and Britannias, because they're actually legal tender here, gold sovereigns and Britannias. It says here, over time, as residents of the state use both Federal Reserve notes and silver and gold coins, the fact that the coins hold their value more than Federal Reserve notes will lead to a reverse Gresham's law effect, where good money will drive out bad money. I never heard of that one, but yeah, maybe you could have that, especially if rising prices continue, or the debasement of the currency. So there you go. I thought that was a good story to look at. How's Rudy doing? He's okay. He's just woken up. Colorado needs to follow being a libertarian state. That Snake, that's true, Mario. That was the only gold double eagle left, and he bought it. Yeah, I think the rest, they're not supposed to have minted those gold coins. I have a very good book here called Illegal Tender that I recommend. That it's about the story about the double eagle. UK had VAT on gold, but removed it. Yeah, one of the reasons they removed it was because a lot of people. Hold on, I think Rudy wants to go out, to come down. Rudy, you want to come down? Come on, boy. Let's go. Here he is. There he is. Say hello to everyone, Rudy. There you go. Yeah, I think Oliver Temple from Gold Investments told me why VAT was removed from gold. Used to be 20%. What used to happen is a lot of the gold dealers, they used to buy the gold coins from Belgium, which didn't incur VAT, and then claim 20% VAT from the taxman. And the taxman was losing a lot of money. And that's why they can't, they took out the VAT from gold. And the reason they haven't done for silver is because it's not worth doing that for silver, because the value of the silver coin is not as big as gold coins. So that was the reason why VAT on gold was removed. And I think that was in 1999 or 2000. Get down, boy. Good boy. You stay there. Good boy. Yeah, Rudy, when he was smaller, he's about almost 5 months now. He was darker, and he's getting more and more caramel or gold color. I think he might lose a lot of the black spots he has. I think he's going to go lie down. Scott Graham Hobbs, Scott 49140. If mortgage payments go back to the commercial banks and vanishes, how does it pay back the mortgage-backed securities that the Fed holds? Mortgage-backed securities are issued, by the banks, I guess, and or I don't know who the issuers are, but when they receive the the coupon payments, when they when people pay their mortgages, the Fed gets paid by, like any other investor, they get the interest paid. Boris Bulyak says that the 90% silver, the constitutional, is gone from his local coin shop. Yeah, I heard he's that in the US is really tough to get the half dollars, the quarters. I got some on Friday from Peter Morris. Not many, but I got some from him. Oh, Bitcoiner says Barclays corporate bonds in the toilet. Frank Pizzo says he's late. Do you get the emergency alert today? I don't know. I just how can I say, I went into the phone settings and I disabled those alerts. So I don't give a, I don't want to say the word about it. I don't really care about what the government, I don't want to get notified by the government about anything really. But there you go. I think I was walking Rudy at 3 o'clock. So that's what we were doing, right, Rudy? And I didn't even have my phone with me. There's some other articles here that I wanted to look at. Oh yeah, and I've spoken about this. I think I spoke about this about 5 days ago. In one of my videos, it wasn't one of the best videos in terms of views, but I think this is becoming more of a problem here. US banks on alerts over falling commercial real estate valuations. So this article is from, from yesterday, Saturday, in the FT. Lenders increase provisions for losses on property loans as office values drop. I think this could become a problem. The video I did about 5 days ago, I asked the question whether, commercial real estate could become the new subprime. And there's a lot of people worried. Like, I think I spoke about this guy here in the previous video that I did. And I used another article. It says, what happens with commercial real estate, particularly offices? Was State Street's biggest concern. U.S. Custody Bank's chief executive Ron O'Hanley said this week. Not all properties had been hit equally, he added. Class A is holding up. Rents may be declining, but they are not in trouble. Class B and C absolutely are. And this is another interesting comment here. The question we all have is whether contagion will spread from the office sector. And then you have the guy who runs, I think, BlackRock's investments. And of course, or Blackstone, sorry, they have a huge portfolio of commercial real estate. He says here, commercial real estate is broadly distributed amongst big banks, small banks, insurance companies, government agency, securitizations, and mortgage REITs. I don't think it's the kind of systemic issue people are saying it is. Well, I'm sure that's what a lot of people said about subprime mortgages. So I really think this is an important thing to keep an eye on, commercial real estate. And it's a US thing, but it could spread to the whole world financial system. So here's how US banks are doing since the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. So here we have S&P 500. That's doing fairly well. But as you can see, this bank here, this is a small bank in Oklahoma that has a lot of commercial real estate. It's down about 7%. The smaller US banks are doing really badly because they have a lot of commercial real estate. And even the big US banks, they're not doing too well since the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. So I think this is another thing to keep an eye on. So I'll come back to your questions and your comments. We've got a super chat from Chris Conman. Thank you, Chris. With many states now passing legislation allowing gold and silver to be used as legal tender to pay debts, how would this coexist with CBDCs? Could US government strike down these state laws? I'm not sure if if something is passed by a state, by the state governor, by the state legislature. I'm not sure. It's something that I would have to look into, but I don't see. I mean, I see the CBDC just as an alternative. It's just like a Federal Reserve note, really, but in digital form. So I don't know. I mean, I listened to Joseph P. Farrell today. He was interviewed by the Dark Journalist. Someone put a link to that interview in my in the comment section of the video I made today. And Joseph P. Farrell, who is a really interesting author, and I have one of his books here, Financial Vipers of Venice. He said that he thinks we're gonna. He thinks we are similar. The period of time that we are in the U.S. is similar to prior to the Lincoln administration, the Buchanan administration, when things were unraveling and it was a lead up to the Civil War. He thinks a lot of states are going to consider seceding from the Union, and you could see a breakup of the United States. So, Chris, maybe a lot of these states that are going back to gold and silver as legal tender, they might not be part of the United States anymore. Who knows? Things are getting really interesting. I see Lord Humongous is here. He wants to send Janet Yellen to the Bank of England. Please don't. Or maybe that would be a good thing. Should finish with it. Anton Spoji from Bratislava, Slovakia. Nice to see you here. Lily Robbins says federal laws trump state laws, but the government also gives states a lot of autonomy, so leave states' law alone. I try to get Marco. I interviewed him a couple of times, I think already, or once. He has a farm in Arkansas. I don't know if you guys remember, and he sold some of the beef that he he has some cattle on his farm, and he sold 200 pounds of beef for 1 ounce of gold. I was trying to get him on. Unfortunately, he couldn't come on to talk about the new law that was passed in Arkansas. Sarge 27271, nice to see you here. Paul Harlock thinks Texas will join Mexico, Montana, and North Dakota can join Alberta and Saskatchewan and Canada. but then you'd be part of Canada. Do you really want to be, you know, beholden to King Charles III? Because that's what it would mean. Let's see what else I've got here to talk about. But yeah, this is more to do with the UK. So, and the real estate or property market here. I saw this article today in the Telegraph. Landlords abandon market as mortgage rates erode profits. So soaring rents fail to cover mounting costs in the buy-to-let sector. Yeah, buy-to-let, that's, you know, buy to rent. If you know, that's what they call it here in the UK. So I thought that was interesting as well. And we're seeing bond yields starting to go back up, not just in the US, but in the UK as well. So I thought that was interesting. And that's despite rents going up. I think a lot of the landlords, they can't deduct their costs against taxes anymore. That's what, you know, the government has stopped that. And I think the other reason for that as well is because with interest rates going up, you know, we're approaching, you know, almost 5% here in the UK as well. We're at 4.25. The reason why we saw buy-to-let become so popular has been since the 08 crisis, because interest rates have been at zero. But now that they're going higher, it's much easier to just try to put your capital in the bank if you want an income and get 4 or 5, you know, 3.5 or 4%, instead of having the hassle of buying a property, you know, maintaining it, making sure that you get paid. It's not an easy thing, buy to let. A lot of people think it's really easy. And also with house prices, you know, it's not guaranteed now that house prices are going to keep going up in real terms. In nominal terms, they're still okay, but there's a big danger that we could see a big correction. So it doesn't surprise me. And I think a lot of people that got greedy and borrowed a lot to buy to let, they're going to get burnt. Carlos Garcia, now New York City will become the biggest casino legally beside Wall Street. Recently approved 3 casino licenses in Manhattan, soon to be bigger than Vegas. Well, there you go. That's another sign of fiat currency collapse, when there's a lot of gambling and speculation. It's rampant here in the UK, gambling and betting. So I'm not surprised. Jean Robert Lombard is saying, I'm afraid French youngsters know nothing about gold and silver, neither about cash and why it's soon important to use it. Yeah, I'm surprised because the history, you know, in France, you have the history of the Mississippi bubble in the 1720, and then you have the assignats in the 1790s. Maybe they don't teach these things in school anymore to the young French people, but it's the same, you know, it's the same everywhere. They're trying to keep people away from learning the truth about money. Lord Humongous, I think gold silver ratio is around 80 right now. Graham Hobbs, ex-landlord in the UK, climbed out 2 years ago. Luckily, I found Uncle Mario and Aunt Lynette. Yeah, you know, sometimes it takes a while if you have several properties to, you know, liquidate. I did a story right in the beginning of my channel. I think it was in 2016 or 2017. There was 2 retired teachers, I think, from near where I am in Kent, and they built a huge buy-to-let empire, and they actually got rid of it about 4 or 5 years ago. and I think they're probably all out now, and I'm sure they're pretty happy they got out when they did. I think they had hundreds of properties. They really they've been doing it for 20, 30 years. Uh, Lord Humongous says, paper is garbage. I want the real silver to gold ratio. Well, I think Silver Eagles, I guess they're trading around $45. So, and I don't know, an ounce right now of gold probably costs you 2,100 divided by 45. So it's trading around 46 or 50 in terms of physical, I would say. I'm not sure what the gold eagle, 1 ounce gold eagle is. So that's the way to work it out, I guess. Rob, I don't think there will be a failure to deliver. They will just make it cash only settlement, the futures market. That's what they will say. You won't be able to take delivery. Yeah, it will be a failure to deliver. That's not what they'll call it, though. They'll probably say we're going to temporarily make it a cash settled contract. That's what they'll do. Chris Conman, would you sell your silver for gold? Not if it goes below 50. I probably do it if it went to 1 to 1. But no, I try to keep them both. Really, I try not to. The only time I exchange precious metals for other, it wasn't even for other precious metal. It was when I had quite a few Krugerrands. I exchanged them for sovereigns. And the dealer, he was actually a jeweler in London, City of London. He took a percentage, small percentage. And why did I change my Krugerrands for sovereigns? Because I learned this was over 10 years ago that there's no capital gains tax on sovereigns, and that's why I did that. But yeah, I just try to keep both. Carl's going to see if you had advice. Jerome Powell, Yellen, what would you suggest about the dollar situation? Well, I don't think they can do anything about the dollar because it's a political decision. So it would have to be the secretary. Yeah, I guess Yellen would be the one. I would tell her to reinstate, the convertibility of the dollar into gold. I don't know at what price that would be. They'd probably have to work it out, a percentage of the money supply or something, but it would be a lot higher than now. That's the only way to save the dollar. And Yellen would have to come out and say that the mint would be open to the public as well, and that they could come and bring their gold, gold jewelry or silver jewelry to turn them into coins of the realm, so to speak. That's the only way to save the dollar, because what we have now is unsavable. It's just an empty promise. But I think we've gone past being able to save the I owe you nothing dollar. There you go. William PMCD says, wonder if you see the US dollar remaining strong in fiat for next 10 years. Well, actually, believe it or not, the euro has been a bit stronger than the dollar for the last 50 years. Or the Swiss franc has been actually. So I don't I don't even know if the dollar and other fiat currencies are going to be around as we know them in 10 years time. So it's all pretty much irrelevant whether the dollar is the strongest fiat or not, because versus gold and silver, I think all fiat currencies are going to keep sinking. I think someone said that Janet Yellen is destroying America. I think it started way before Janet Yellen. I think we need to go back to 1933, really, and 1971. Those are really important years. And well, and then 1913, of course, when the Federal Reserve Act was signed into law on December 23rd. I have a few more things. Oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about, you guys probably have been hearing about this. This is to do with the Sudan. So I think the U.S. and French diplomats have been they had to leave. But it says, and I tweeted this out, I think, was it yesterday? Yeah, I think, no, Friday. Sudan, another proxy war between the US and Russia. Sudan's leader agrees to host Russian naval base on Red Sea. This was in January. You see, the Sudanese president did a deal with the Russians, and that they could have a naval base on the Red Sea, and that's strategically very important, having a naval base in the Red Sea. And I think that's why Sudan has erupted into a civil war. It's a proxy war between the US and Russia. And I think the people who are going to lose out, of course, are the people from Sudan, unfortunately. So that's what it's all about, Sudan. Another proxy war, and I think we're going to see a lot more of these wars, unfortunately. Oh yeah, here's another story to do with Sudan. This came out, I think, today. U.S. military evacuates embassy officials from Sudan after a week of violence. France and Saudi Arabia also proceed with extracting nationals. UK and China expected to follow suit. So there you go. And I think the two factions, one faction in this civil war is US backed, and the other faction is Russian backed. Birdie Bear says miners are still down. Yeah, it depends on. I mean, they were doing pretty well until a couple of weeks ago, at least the ones that I hold. But yeah, that's how miners go. They can move up and down very quickly. I think miners are just like a speculative play on gold and silver. That's how people have to look at it. I wouldn't, someone said earlier that you only need to put 10% in physical gold and silver. I would say I would rather have, investable assets, almost 100% gold and silver. But out of those, I'd have maybe 10% in the miners. That's how I look at the miners. Sarge says, Mario, what about Macron going to see Xi Jinping? Well, I think a lot of the European countries are worried with what's going on, all the talk about conflict with China and Taiwan and yeah, the French and the Germans, for that matter, they do a lot of business with China. So I think they just wanted to, I don't know. It looks like Xi Jinping kind of wined and dined Macron, and he's kind of, I don't disagree with the guy. Why do they have to? It's none of their business what happens in Taiwan. I don't, the French used to be in Southeast East Asia, but that was Indochina, which was Vietnam, and they left back in the 60s. So yeah, maybe Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is right. Maybe America should mind its own business. So I agree with Macron. He even said that other countries are starting to not use the dollar. So it's quite interesting. Of course, there's going to be a lot of criticism of Macron. There has been here in the UK and in the US. But France, last I saw, is a independent country. Maybe the Germans should take a bit of a lesson from Macron in that. So that's how I see it. Slovakia says Macron is useless. Yeah, I don't like the guy either. I think he's a puppet of the bankers and the big corporations, but I don't, in terms of what he did, the trip to China, I think he did, he looked after France's interest or corporate interest, which is better than not, I guess. Norbert, what about the coming EU asset register? I haven't really looked into that much, but anything that has register on it is not a good thing. So that's all I can say about that. I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure if it's not gonna apply here in the UK, of course, because we're out of the EU. Rumpelstiltskin's Asia for Asians. Yeah, that's a novel idea, isn't it? Rumpelstiltskin, Asia for Asians. Tom Miller says Bavaria wants autonomy. I think Bavaria was there was a Bavarian Republic that came up after World War One. Germany was in turmoil. I think the Kaiser had abdicated, so that wouldn't be a new thing. Yeah, Norbert, I don't know about the I haven't looked into the US asset register, so maybe if you could tell me about it. I haven't heard. I don't know what it is. Is it they want to keep track of everything you have? Is that what it is? If it is, it's not a good thing. Slovakia, Mary, is Rafi busy to join us today? Well, Rafi doesn't come on every Sunday. I ask him once a month or so. So there you go. Jake's Custom Parts, thank you for your super chat. Your opinion on gold and silver miners for the next 2 years? Well, I'm accumulating. I have been for the last 2 years, and they haven't done great, but they, they haven't done worse than the general stock market in the last 2 years. And I'm going to continue to hold them. My hope, not hope, but I see them doing well because I see gold and silver continue to go higher. And it depends, of course. There's the big producing gold and silver miners. Some of them pay good dividends. And then there's the junior explorers. That's a different story. I have some of those too. but they're a bit, they're they're riskier miners than others. So, but yeah, it's very speculative. And if you do well with a gold or silver miner, uh, I think you should think about taking some profit, because I learned in '08, I did quite well and I didn't get out. Um, and ended up like not doing too well. So it's very cyclical, but I think it should do well in the next 2 years. Uh, Jean-Robert Lombard says there's huge demonstrations coming in France. Yes, it seems to be heating up. I think it's going to spread. It's going to maybe come here in the UK, even though the protests that we see here are just these eco warriors, which is pretty sad that people are so much more concerned about climate change than what's happening financially. It's just a huge distraction, unfortunately. LG, in addition to gold and silver, should we begin stocking some food and water from when? Yeah, SHTF. Well, I'm not a prepper channel. I'm a financial prepper channel. So yeah, I mean, anything you can do to be prepared for that kind of stuff is good. I remember, in Brazil, I think it was 1987, we had like a currency reset. Yeah, the shelves were empty for a few months. You could still get things. It wasn't easy, but it's not the end of the world. I think what's going to happen is you still be able to get things, but they're going to be just very expensive, just like they're getting now. And we can notice, when we go shopping at the supermarket, maybe 3-4 years ago, you spent 130 pounds, a big shop for, let's say, 10 days or 2 weeks. Now it's getting up to like almost 200. So there you go. I don't think we're going to run out of things. Maybe a few things will be difficult to get, but you'll always be able to. I just think it's the prices are going to go up because the currencies are going to go down. Mark Gutierrez, thank you for your super chat. Do you think we'll see war on US soil? Yeah, if there is, it would be a war, a civil war, but not like I don't think it will be like a foreign nation. So yeah, but I think we already have like a political war, which is getting very close to a kinetic war in the US right now. Yeah, Jim Millward says if you can buy today what you will need next year, then you're saving a lot of money. Yeah, all the basic necessities. I mean, I'm not going to go through them, but if you can buy things that you can keep for a long time, yeah, load up on them. Yeah, because they're going to get more expensive in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months time. I think my wife, we had some beef cooked the other day, rolled rib of beef, and it was over a year old, but it'd been in the freezer and it was fine. And I'm sure the same rolled rib of beef would be a lot more expensive now than a year and a half ago. Rochelle Fernandez, glad to catch this live starting to from start at 2 times. And yes, I call this new husky by the name of my husky who passed away December 2. I'm sorry to hear that. Rudy was here earlier. He's now on the floor. He's asleep there. He wanted to get down from the sofa. Dave Bowden, do you have a view on Ron DeSantis and the Disney situation in Florida? I haven't really kept in touch too much with the Disney story, so I wouldn't be able to comment on it. I try to stay away from following politics too much. Bev Smith, I do think any coin that has some silver in it will be useful. Even the 50% silvers in the UK, they're from 1920 to 1947. Yeah, they should be fine as well. Um, I don't have too many of those, but because I prefer the 925. But yeah, they should be fine. They should be good too. They'll just be worth half of the value of the pre 1920, I would say, because it's got half the silver. And I think people will learn very quickly uh, how to value things. We got about 7 minutes to go. Yeah, Alan Hua saying Disney is state within a state. Yeah, Disney has a. I mean, I read about this years ago. Don't remember exactly, but they have a special exemptions. It's almost like he says a state within the state. Mark Gutierrez, thank you for your super chat. He says, keep it up. Hiramba Anjaneya, how will CBDCs affect precious metals mining shares? Well, the thing is, CBDCs are going to be just like fiat currency. So if anything, you know, how will the dollar affect precious metals mining shares? I guess the more devalued they become, you know, and as I said, they're cyclical mining shares. So I don't even know if we're going to get CBDCs. I did a video about Lebanon today that I published earlier today. And in Lebanon, they had their hyperinflationary collapse started in 2019. And now the country is running just on cash because the banks have collapsed. So the same might happen in the West. Who knows? And that's my hope, that we see hyperinflation and the central banks and the banks will have no credibility. And if they try to bring in CBDCs, I don't think people would accept them. Scott 4914, does Peter Morris have any half dollars? I think I bought the few he had on Friday, but he always gets them. You would need to call him on the phone and ask him. He gets them regularly. Tim says, thank you for your time and your work. I really appreciate your insight. We welcome and thanks for this feedback. Thank you, Lord Humongous. Yeah, I've been looking at Lebanon since 2020, and I interviewed someone from Lebanon in 2021. It's an interesting situation there, and I think their central bank they started losing like billions back in 2020, and now the Fed's losing trillions, and so are the other central banks. I think we're going the same way. It might not be as pronounced and as dire as Lebanon, but I think especially the UK, because the UK is so dependent on finance and foreign trade, just like Lebanon. So that worries me, actually. Sue and Sam, they agree with me about CBDCs that it will fail. Yeah, it's like when we had that crisis in 2020. they're pushing that app, track and trace. I never bothered with it, and that's failed. I think it's going to be the same thing for CBDCs. Maybe a few people will be on it, or I don't even think it will work anyway. So we got another 2 minutes to go. I'll show you some other coins that I have here. It just goes to show you some other coins. I showed you guys, I think, the 1819 crown that I got. That's 925 silver the other day. And I've also got an old, this one I've had already. It's a Brazilian 2000 reais coin from 1852, I think. There you go. And then I've got 1000 reais from Portugal. That's 1899, as you can see here. And then I've got a 1821 5 francs from France, and that's Louis the 18th. So the interesting thing about these 4 coins is that they're all silver and they're all pretty much the same size. It goes to show that silver's money in all these different countries. So there you go. Sarge says, be safe. Thank you, you too. Yeah, I do have I have a ruble coin. I think is it 10 or 5 rubles. It's the pretty much like the size of a sovereign. I do have a ruble gold coin. Yeah, it's a nice, I think it's from 1899. Chris Conman, do you think the general public will finally wake up on silver when it gets above 30? I think they will wake up when it gets above 50. Maybe a little bit above 30, but I think more above 50. Echo, thank you for your super chat. Thanks for all your shows, which helped me take a leap of faith and buy some gold. As insurance, it makes lots of sense in these increasingly fraught times. I agree. That's the thing. We all talk about the fiat price and we talk about, oh, is it going to do this or that? But it's more as insurance and knowing that it's going to be worth something, not just in the next 5 years, but maybe also for your children and grandchildren, hopefully, if you can hold on to it. That's the thing. So there you go. Thank you, everyone, for showing up for the live stream. And I wish you all a great rest of the weekend and a great start to the week. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.